Grüezi, this is Sarah Keller, and I'm excited to be part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal, Chief Growth Officer at Globe Teleservices. This month is particularly special for the podcast as we have crossed 1,000 followers on LinkedIn. To all the listeners and supporters, just want to convey my immense gratitude for all the love and support. It's amazing to see how well this podcast has been received by the CPaaS community and all the fun conversations we have had. Speaking about fun conversations, today's guest is someone I definitely label as fun. Interestingly, to our CPaaS community, she tends to often portray a more serious image at times, and my endeavor today is to unleash the fun side of this wonderful individual. She can be seen at almost every conference, so much so that I think that she definitely has a twin sister hidden somewhere. So please join me in welcoming Sarah Keller, Chief Global Enterprise Officer at Global Message Services. Sarah, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. Which part of the world do you belong to? And from where are you joining this podcast today?
Thanks, Anurag. Thanks for the introduction. No pressure there to be fun, but thank you. I'm from Yorkshire, England, north of England, and I'm actually speaking to you from Zurich, Switzerland today, where I live and have lived for the last 21 years.
Wonderful, Sarah, two equally amazing places. But what's most amazing is the Bruce Springsteen concert you attended last evening. So, see, I told you there is so much of fun out there in your life. So, to start with, why don't our listeners get to know a bit more about the concert? How did it go? What were your reactions, your feelings? What was it all about?
Absolutely. Well, it's the first time I've ever seen Bruce Springsteen, so probably a bit late in his career for me to see him for the first time. But my friend actually visited from England because she couldn't get tickets at the time in the UK, and she bought me a ticket. So I decided to go along. And I'd heard great things about him, and he didn't disappoint. I mean, he's 73. He played for 3 hours. He had a fantastic band, huge amount of people, wind, brass, everything on stage. It was really cool. Didn't know many of the songs, in all honesty, but it was really, really cool. So, as I said, 3 hours. The only reason he stopped was the Swiss noise pollution rules at 10:30. But no, a great experience. I would recommend anybody to go who's not seen Bruce live.
Yeah, I can imagine at the age of 73 being alive and
Yeah.
kicking and, rocking the audience with his performances. That's quite something that I think only the likes of a Bruce Springsteen can do.
Exactly, I think so. But yeah, it was fantastic. Absolutely.
Wonderful. And now shifting from Bruce to our dear Sarah. So let's hear a bit more about your journey. So, while I've met you only from the time you joined GMS, but I think you've been in the industry for a while. So, how was it like growing up in Yorkshire? How did the transition to Switzerland happen? Were there some other countries and continents in the middle as well? And how's your journey in telecoms been so far?
Okay, well, yes. It sounds a long time. I've been in the industry 28 years, which makes me sound incredibly old. But yes, and I always ask people how they came into telecoms because invariably very few actually planned this. It seems to be an accident. And mine started with a summer job. After university, I took a summer job at BT, customer care in Leeds. And I have to say, I always am very appreciative of the horrible role of customer care and the people. Try to be as polite as possible because it's a struggle. But I started that after university and then moved to London to be with my then boyfriend. And the only job that was advertised was a customer care role in a company called Frontier Communications. So I applied for it. It was about wholesale voice. I was successful, although I didn't have a clue what this wholesale voice was and how it worked. And from there, it just moved on. Frontier Communications turned into Global Crossing. I then was invited to join Swisscom. And this is when I had the opportunity to move to Switzerland. So I was working at Swisscom in the UK. they closed the office and I was invited to Switzerland. So Switzerland wasn't on my plan. I did want to go abroad. I wanted to go to maybe Italy or Spain, but Switzerland was the opportunity. So I went thinking I would stay for a year. This was in 2002, and I'm still here. And from that, then I've moved between aggregators, voice aggregators. I then moved to the mobile operators, back into Sunrise after working for Swisscom, and then other smaller companies. And eventually, 8 years ago, I joined GMS, and that was my step into messaging.
Wonderful. So, you didn't really stumble into telecom. You're quite a seasoned telecom professional, I must say,
At this
and
point, I stumbled in at the beginning and then stayed.
wonderful. And I think just like you mentioned that I think you shifted to Switzerland and you never knew that's going to become home for such a long time. I think even for me, when I got into telecom, I joined it simply because I thought it's giving me one free trip to Canada. Because back then, when I joined, my team was in Montreal in Tata Communications, and I remember I thought, okay, let's just enjoy the free trip and we'll take it from there. And little did I know that it's nearly been a decade now and still very much here.
Exactly. I think I've seen quite a few people who've left, but invariably come back.
Yeah,
It's a family. I mean, I know
it's a family.
we know everybody. They may have a different job title or a different business card, but it's the same people, and that's what I love.
Correct. And that's the intent of this podcast as well, to bring out more of the human side, because we all interact so often at that human level. So, that's exactly what we are doing out here. And in this wonderful journey of yours, I'm sure there must have been some memorable or impactful moments. So, is there something which you can share with our listeners today?
Yeah, I would say impacting was. I think we've all, well, many of us have had the situation. It was actually early in my career where I unfortunately had to work with a very difficult manager, my manager at the time, and it's just a challenge of how you address that, because that person can actually be quite impacting on how you feel about yourself, how you cope with your day-to-day work, and it's also about how you handle that. And I still very much always want to understand what makes a person tick. Why would this person be so bullying and aggressive? And invariably it's their own weaknesses or their own fears that drives that. But it was just how I handled it, how I managed it, how I came above that, how I managed to work with this person going forward. So, I mean, there's a famous quote I think we probably all know from Eleanor Roosevelt, which is, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." But that's very difficult to keep to because, as I said, I was young at the time and it really had an impact. But I think what it's done, it's really helped me for the future, because I had to get above and beyond this. I had to accept it, manage it, work with it, develop from it. And it's really given me great, just yeah, structure and focus for how I go forward with that. So it's just more that I think this happens to a lot of people. I've also had some amazing bosses, and I still do, but it was just that one that stood out. It can be quite life defining if you don't handle it properly, depending on the scale of it. So as I said, it's made me stronger, if you like, for the future. And just human nature never surprises me, good or bad. I love to see the good win out. It's a big thing for me, but yeah, it was quite an impacting moment in my career.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the human nature of resilience which comes to our rescue in
Hmm.
such cases. But, this almost reminds me of a similar conversation I had with Luana Luna of CMI UK. And she also mentioned something similar where she was in a toxic relationship, and how she managed to find a way out of it and was able to show her own self that how much she can succeed in life if she just gets on with it. So I totally resonate with your story here. So at this point, Sarah, we move to our next section, which we call the human side. So we're going to ask you a couple of questions more about Sarah and also play a few games. So firstly, and Sarah, we want a great answer here, right? So no pressure, but yeah, we
No
want to
pressure
hear
again.
something. Absolutely. So, first and foremost, while we all know Sarah, and let me tell our listeners a very quick anecdote from my conversations with Sarah. So, and this is a long time back, but Sarah always presents herself in a very in a particular manner where she resonates a lot more with the serious side of telecom rather than the fun side. And with not meaning to offend anyone, but especially she gives a very telco operator like image. So remember that a couple of years ago we were in a conference where there was an area where only operators could go, and the badges clearly showed that whether you're an operator or not. And whenever we tried to make an entry there, we were stopped because we didn't have that badge, and it was obvious we're not an operator. But our dear Miss Keller, she just walked in confidently, and we caught up for drinks later, and she said, "Oh, I just walked in, nobody even asked me." I said, "Sarah, that's because you give that air." So I think you know that's exactly the that's a quintessential example to exemplify that what I'm trying to say out here. But my question to you, Sarah, that tell us something shocking about Sarah that nobody knows.
Well, it appears nobody knows that I can be fun, Anurag, from what you're saying. So I'm surprised that I give this image because there's many different things. First of all, I struggle with, I think you probably heard of it. It's called the Imposter Syndrome, which is where I
Yes.
always feel I'm always questioning my validity in that situation. So the fact I walked in confidently, uh, well, I'm surprised, but I did. I walked in. So when I'm in the job, I'm very focused on it. And that's possibly the perception people see. But I think if anybody, including yourself, who knows me, well, knows that I do like to have a drink. I like to party. And as I said, to enjoy my job, I need to know the people around me. I like to understand them. I need to know, yeah, their family life, etc., outside of work, because for me, relationships is key. So as a result, I do spend a lot of time socializing. So the conferences can be quite hectic because it's the full day plus the evenings and the nights. Partying, but getting to know my counterparts and the people in the industry. So I suppose, yeah, that's not really shocking for anybody who knows me. But still, I think maybe the idea that I'm not as confident in any situation as it seems that I come across is possibly surprising for others. But it's something I struggle with every day, and just yeah, have to get on with it. I mean, this is the reality of my personality.
Sarah, I think that's a wonderful thought you mentioned out there, and it's very true. And I think it's definitely shocking when I think about you, because I feel your confidence is something that it's just there. It's taken for granted when one thinks of Sarah. So you coming out and mentioning that on this forum, that that I know about the imposter syndrome also. There are times when even I face that same situation. So it's really amazing to see that you actually mentioned that out here, and to so many of our listeners, that there's much more than the perception that we build about people. So I think that's a fantastic uh, response you gave to that question. And to add to that, since you mentioned about fun, and I know you do a lot of things, so what are some of your passions? What do you do to recharge yourself?
Okay, well, I used to fence. I love fencing. I wouldn't say I was skilled in it, but what I lacked in skill, I made up for in force because I like to win. And in fencing, it's obviously kind of combat, so I really enjoyed that. And badminton, but the same again. I will die in my efforts to win because I'm really competitive when it comes to sport. More now with the family. My kids' activities have more overtaken my own. So my son's really good in handball. He's a part of the regional team and the elite Zurich team. So I try to watch his games wherever I can go. But again, I'm a bit too shouty crackers in the games. He's embarrassed by that. But for me right now, actually, a lovely glass of wine in the garden with the family at the end of the day is what I really enjoy. So yeah, the sport is I keep planning to go running, etc. And every day I set the alarm and say I will go running this morning, and invariably that alarm comes and goes and hasn't happened. So I would say the wine right now, Anurag, the wine at the end of the day just helps me rewind with the family.
Awesome. And I think that's a fair one. And fencing, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm already trying to picture you wearing that fencing net and, actually getting into a sword fight with someone.
Exactly. No, it's really good fun. I have to say, I really enjoyed it. So as it was, as I said, I wasn't very talented in it, but I enjoyed it. So one day I saw that they were doing classes, so I decided to join. And yeah, every week I was going, and then there was competitions and stuff. So no, we were a really nice team of people as well. So it was good fun. It's just about time. Sometimes this is the challenge. I should make more time for things like that. But that is also when you're traveling a lot, when you're working a lot, and you've got family, sometimes you feel doing something for yourself is a little bit selfish. You're taking more time away from the family, and that's also what you try to juggle. So, yeah, the
Right.
fencing has gone by the by, but still, the focus is, yeah, on the family where I can. And yes, some sport would be good. Definitely, I haven't got the healthiest of lifestyles. Some sport would be good, but I talk about it a lot. I don't do it a lot, is the reality.
I guess that's a story of all our lives, and especially with the
Hmm.
travel, I think makes it a bit hectic more. But anyway,
Exactly.
so moving on, our next question is, I'm gonna throw a couple of words at you, and we'd love to hear the first thought that comes to your mind. So, as I tell all my guests, that be spontaneous, be original, be human. So, we'd love to hear Sarah's words. So, are you ready for that?
Let's give it a go.
Awesome. So, the first one is telecom.
Say family, because that's how find it. I find it just a community, a family community. People have been in this industry for so long, including myself, and yeah, family springs to mind.
Absolutely. Motivation.
I think change and impact. I like to feel relevant. This is part of the imposter syndrome again, but I want to make a mark. A positive change, whether it be for me, for somebody, for the company, whatever. That's what motivates me.
All right. The third one is something similar to what you said, but I hope a different answer. Family.
Family, yeah. Well, it just springs to mind an image of my family. It does come with sometimes lack of, time for them, but family is just it's the most important thing. And that's I sometimes you have to go back and go, why am I doing all this? It is for family. So just to kick yourself and remember every now and again. So
Absolutely. The next one is career.
wow, I would say varied, and there's so much more potential, I think. So career is also, yeah, it's key for me as well. Again, it's this the need to feel relevant and contribute, etc. So and I would say, yeah, it's been exciting. An exciting career.
I'm sure. And the last one is podcast.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is the first ever interaction I've ever had or heard regarding with a podcast. So I would say the unknown, Anurag, because yeah, I work in telecoms. I outside of that, I do nothing that is any way remotely technical at all, and this is already quite technical for me. So I would say the unknown for podcast, a new discovery.
Yep. Let's hope that maybe from this experience you become motivated to interact with a lot more podcasts. So let's see how it goes for you.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next one is the most interesting question of all. So here I ask my guest to put across three statements. Two of them have to be truths, and one of them has to be a lie. And as I've mostly failed, I try and guess the lie. So would you have three statements for us today, Sarah?
Okay. Yes. So a few years ago, I went traveling around the world. I took some time off from my career and went traveling for 7 months. And when I was in Australia, I was bitten by a poisonous spider. My second is that anybody who knows me is aware I've been in Switzerland for far too long for the fact that I do not speak German. I am pathetic at that. However, I have Irish roots and I've spent a lot of time of my childhood in Ireland, so I am fluent in Gaelic. And the last one is I was held at gunpoint whilst in a taxi.
Sarah, your first two seem so elaborate. Though, people have tricked me with this approach also, that they make elaborate lies and then they appear as truths. But I have a strong feeling that the first two were elaborate enough and vivid enough that they are both truths, and the third one is a lie. Is that correct?
So the third one is that I was held at gunpoint.
Yep, yep.
Incorrect.
Oh, that is awesome.
Well, it wasn't at the time, but yes, but yes, that is no. I actually anybody again, and Anurag, you should know better. My language skills are atrocious. Gaelic, not a chance, not a chance. I barely managed to speak English, let alone any other language. So no.
Well, the thing is that you that's the thing with Sarah, that confidence, that conviction in her tone.
Exactly. But no,
Amazing.
I was actually held at gunpoint when I was in a taxi in London years ago. So not a pleasant experience. I mean, nothing happened, and yeah, just some very strange and dangerous person who, yeah, pointed a gun at us, scared the hell out of us, me and the taxi driver, and then left. But yes.
Oh, well, you mean there was no robbery? There was nothing that the person
No,
wanted.
thankfully no. But the taxi did crash afterwards because I think he was so nervous and so scared by the whole incident that he then, when he was reversing back to get away from the situation, he actually crashed into another car. So we had that as well. But no, the guy just was, I don't know, just out there to terrify, I think. But you have no idea. But we were just held there, frozen, whilst he pointed the gun at us. But then he just walked away. Then he just walked away.
Gosh, these are some stories which just leave your mind a little boggled at what exactly happened out there.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it was an interesting time indeed.
I'm sure, and wow, that's that's quite fantastic. I mean, by far one of my most interesting three statement answer to this question. All right. And the last one in this section that, yes, we are all very busy, but I'm sure that you get some time to read or watch movies. So, do you have a favorite book or a movie, and why?
I do, and it is called A Wonderful Life. Now, if anybody is aware of it, it's actually a black and white movie. It was produced in 1946 with James Stewart and directed by Frank Capra, and it's just a lovely movie about the wonders of the human nature, and it's a Christmas movie. I won't say too much because you should definitely watch it. But it is about a guy who does a lot for everybody, and then his life goes, if you like, to hell, and then just the reaction of the people around him and human nature. And for me, I delight in seeing the wonders, the positives of human nature. I find it is the most amazing thing, and I love to see it. And this film embodies all of that.
I think it's an almost 80-year-old movie now, but I think
Hmm.
even today it resonates with all of us. So, yep, I can totally believe that.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, Sarah, a very, very fun conversation so far. But as I have to say, that all fun things also come to an end at some point, though one wishes that they don't. But that's the way of life. So, we are on the final section, what I call the sign off section. So, two quick questions. Firstly, as I said in the start, that you just seem to be everywhere. So, in the next couple of weeks or months, if somebody wants to hear more about Sarah's gunpoint incident or about how she used to be at fencing, which are some of the events or conferences where you plan to be there and one can catch up with you?
Okay, well, next week already, there is the Capacity SMS and Messaging World in London, so I will be there. And then there's a bit of a break, thankfully, for summer. And then I think in September it starts with the conferences, and I believe there is seven or so happening at the same time in the same week, whether it be VAS or GITEX or whatever. So because my focus is more enterprise clients, I will be more focused there. So my plan is to be at GITEX in October, definitely. However, things change quite rapidly in GMS regarding the conference and attendance. So it could be that I'm in three places in the same week. who knows? But definitely GITEX, and next week, as I said, SMS messaging and capacity.
So you've got your twin sister ready for the three places in 1 week stint.
Absolutely. I think everybody needs a twin sister during that period because it's just going to be crazy. Yeah, it's a crazy amount of conferences. And I really enjoy the conferences. I was at ITW recently, obviously, where I saw you. I was in VAS, where I saw you in Canada. I mean, these are fantastic places to travel. Also, we're very lucky in the industry we're in that we do get to go to some wonderful places. But for me, I can't state it strongly enough. It's about relationships. Business comes from relationships. Enjoying your industry comes from the relationships and working with the people, the varied people we have in the industry. So all of these conferences, even if it's not focused on my area of business, is a great opportunity to meet people, understand what's going on in the industry, hear what's happening, see about developments, and just keep up to date with everything that's happening in telecoms. So I do enjoy the conferences. It can be a bit tiring, as said, because I like to do obviously the conference and the partying, and that can be the tiring thing, but I find it so beneficial.
Yeah, and I feel so much of the work happens in the partying than in the day conference. So I think that's equally important, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I really do believe in that. So it's, yeah, but I'm getting old. Anurag, it takes its toll. I'm coming back at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't function so well the next day as I used to, but I just have to take that into account. Getting old. I have to face it.
We all have to at some point, don't we? Awesome. And Sarah, the final question, which is a signature question. So, what does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
Oof, I think someone who cares. I cannot tolerate injustice if I see it against people around me, myself. I have spoken out in the past at risk of my own job, because I just being human is about caring, and it's not about you. Your success is based on everyone around you, and you cannot be isolated in this. So I think, yeah, it's just about respect for others, help where you can, guide where you can, assist where you can, and speak out and stand up for people. So it's a mixture of all those things, but I think it's based on respect and care. Whoever the person, whether in telecoms or outside, in your home, on your weekend, etc. For me, that's the core.
Yeah. So, respect and care, it is for you.
Hmm.
Fair enough, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And on behalf of all our listeners, I think it's been a wonderful conversation. It's been truly fun, and I think you really got me out there with your lie. So I think that was a perfect high point of this conversation. So it's going to truly be a memorable one. And I know how busy you are. I understand there is so much happening around you all the time, and yet you've taken out time for this. So thank you so much.
No, thank you very much for the invitation, Anurag. It was a pleasure. I was a little bit nervous, as you know. I was concerned that, having heard some of your other podcasts, how cool and how exciting your guests have been, and how interesting that I would disappoint. So I apologise to the audience if I've bored you for the last 35 minutes or so.
Well, you definitely know it's not been that. And I think this episode releases just before the Messaging and SMS World Conference. So you never know. You might just have some interesting conversations while you're there.
Absolutely, indeed.
Wonderful. So, thank you so much, Sarah, once again. And to all our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Sarah Keller, somebody who has been in the telecom industry for so long that she treats it as a family and a community, someone who definitely has a fun side and which is more visible to her close friends, someone who's been honest about the imposter syndrome and how it impacts so many of us without us even realizing, and finally, someone who's faced life at gunpoint as well. That's some of the interesting facts about Sarah Keller. So, if you enjoyed this episode, Do stay tuned in because we shall soon be releasing yet another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.